Yo, guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk about a new movie review that I'm doing, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the fourth movie of the new reboot series of the Apes franchise that started way back in 2011. Now, this is unprecedented because this is the first ever Planet of the Apes movie produced by Disney, by Walt Disney Company. The other ones, they was 20th Century Fox. Of course, they've been produced by 20th Century Fox, much like Star Wars was since 1968, since the original. And then you had the sequels that came out after that, like Battle for the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, uh, Return to the Planet of the Apes, then the 2001 version, Planet of the Apes reboot with Tim Burton and Mark Wahlberg that everybody and Tim Roth that everybody hated. It was a comical reinterpretation, reimagining, if you will, of the Planet of the Apes original movie. People shitted on that. Then in 2011, they came back out with Andy Serkis and his motion capture work with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Rise of the Planet of the Apes changed the way we perceived the franchise, rebooted the franchise, re-energized the franchise. From there, they had uh, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and Battle of War for the Planet of the Apes. All three great movies. But that trilogy was over. That story was told. The story of arc of Caesar was told. Caesar is no longer with us. In the current story, spoiler alert, Caesar is a mythical figure. Caesar is a legend. Caesar is he's like the Solon in ancient Greek society, or like Moses in the Hebraic society. People talk about him, people pontificate about him. He's basically has a religion constructed around him. And much like the original 1968 movie, a lot of the struggles that we see and a lot of the debates that we see surround the role of religion in society. For example, uh, and how religion can be misappropriated. The orang and it's just like it was in the older movies. You know, there's a hierarchy amongst the apes, and I've always said this. Uh, Watching them, being a fan of them, the chimpanzees are the intellectuals, right? The chimpanzees are the politicians. You know, they're the ones that uh, they're the intellectuals. Say, for example, if you wanted to compare say the chimp society in this universe to Hinduism, right? The Vaishyas, uh, the merchant class, the intelligentsia, the political class, they would be the chimpanzees. The Kshatriyas, which are the warriors, they would be um, uh, they would be they'd be the gorillas, right? The gorillas are mostly the warriors, and the Brahmins, which are the priestly caste, they would be the orangutans. The orangutans, to me, since the very beginning, and with Dr. Zayas in the 1968 film, were always the orangutans. Maurice in the Caesar trilogy, he was always an orangutan. And in this one, too, the orangutan, Raka, is the one who he has all the books, he has all the legends of Caesar. He studies Caesar's ideology. He wears Caesar's symbol, which is the symbol that was outside the window he grew up with in James Franco and John Lithgow's house. Um, when he was being raised, so that kind of represents him, and then people wear that like people in our society would wear a cross. But then you have politicians like the villain of the piece, Caesar Proximus, appropriating Caesar's image, saying that Caesar, because Caesar's slogan was "Apes stronger together." So he's basically he wants unity too, but he's like a Hitler, right? He wants unity, Hitler or Mussolini. He wants unity, but under his terms. He doesn't want other apes to stray away from what his plan is. And his plan revolves around the rediscovery of electricity. He feels like if he could rediscover what the humans uh, utilized electricity for, that could be his atomic bomb, and that could be his way of conquest, conquering the world. He basically runs a slave camp. So he's the villain of the piece. The protagonist of the piece is Noah. Noah is this young, inquisitive ape, right? He lives in a what they call as an evil clan. Now, apparently, I was reading some behind the scenes things, and the Eagle clan descend from Bad Ape. Now, do you guys remember uh, Bad Ape and from War for the and from War for the Planet of the Apes? Bad Ape was that ape that was raised in a zoo, and he had a more extensive vocabulary than the other apes who were basically still using sign language. Well, his tribe broke away from the main tribe, and this tribe raises birds. So they have a thing in their culture, in their particular tribe. They're the eagle tribe, so they have a particular custom in their society that um uh they capture one egg, one eagle egg, and each ape on a bonding day. This was a rite of passage thing for the apes. On bonding day, will bond with the eagle. Now Noah's dad is the chief of this eagle clan, so he's able to some on some Doctor Doolittle shit. He's able to communicate with all these eagles, right? Noah will someday be able to do that too, but he's not able to do that yet. He's not even able to climb as high as he can climb. He's not even able to reach his full potential, or what he can reach. So him and his two friends, one female ape that he's interested in, Sylvia, and another companion friend, Anaya. They go, but there's a forbidden zone, right? There's a zone where they're not allowed to cross, where they say echoes live. Echo is apparently is a name that they use, a derogatory name that they use for humans, because by this point in the telling of the story, uh, human beings are the ones that still survive, at least according to the ape logic. We find out later in the end that that's not necessarily true, but according to the ape logic, human beings are they've de-evolved. They can barely speak. They're in the silence now, like where apes were historically. But Noah, he's never known a time when human beings were intelligent. All he's ever known is apes being dominant and humans being subordinate. Humans being dumb and apes being superiorly uh, intellectually superior. Now, people will raise an eyebrow and say, "Well, how intellectually superior can they be? They can't even get technology." But I look at it like a historical parallel that I use is the Germanic invasions of Rome. 476 AD, when Rome fell, and these Germanic tribes, be they the Visigoths, be they the be they the Arsogoths, be they the Lombards in Italy, be they the Angles and the Saxons in England, the Franks in Germany. There were a lot of technology, especially aqueduct technology, that Rome was responsible for, that Rome built, basically, that the people in the Dark Ages, the inheritors of that civilization, the Germanic tribes, did not know anything about, did not know how to use. And it took them years to kind of rediscover and rebuild upon it. Hell, the Greeks had an incipient version of the internet in antiquity. You know what I mean? So that's what this is. You know what I mean? And uh, there's a human played by William H. Macy. Initially, when I saw William H. Macy on screen, I thought it was Luke Skywalker. I'm like, oh shit, they got Mark Hamill in Apes movie, but it wasn't him. It was William H. Macy. He was captured by Caesar Proximus Caesar years back, and now he reads in Roman history. Apparently, because Proximus Caesar sees himself as a parallel of Caesar, Julius Caesar, right in Rome. Basically, a benevolent dictator. He sees himself as benevolent, but obviously he's a bad guy. But also, I think he's reading into human history because he wants to rediscover the secret to human civilization and be the one to bring that to the apes. Because Caesar emancipated them. Caesar led them for as far as he can. But if you want to use a biblical analogy, Caesar was Moses, right? Caesar took the apes as far as he could take them, but now they're in kingdom mode. Now they're developing their civilization to a further extent. Now uh, they um, they're like in the mode of David, Solomon, Saul. So I'm looking at Caesar Proximus like a Saul, basically. A really ruthless dictator that's really trying to suppress the rights of the humans because the humans see themselves as the rightful heirs to this because they once ruled Earth and they're trying to get it back, which brings me to the next person. Along their journeys, the priest and Noah encounter a woman, a human being. They call her No. They call her Nova. Now, every human being is called Nova because Nova was the name of the young girl that Maurice formed a friendship with early on. Nova is just a name that they call female humans. So he encounters Nova. He finds out later that Nova knows how to speak. Now, the instance where Nova speaks is similar to the instance where Charleston Heston first spoke in 1968 version, or when Caesar first spoke in the 2011 version. And it's shocking to the ape, especially to the learned ape, because he was taught that humans don't talk. Humans are dumb and slow, right? So he's in shock. Basically, she meets up with this professor. The professor, she's mad at the professor because she has one mission, and her mission is to kill Proximus and to bring Proximus's corpse back to where the humans are staying, the underground layer that the humans are staying. But over time, she forms this friendship with Noah because Noah's clan is being wiped out by Proximus because the people Proximus blames Noah's clan for humans infiltrating them. Had they not sought those humans out and had they not gone beyond the forbidden zone, the humans would have never known where they were at. And M plus bringing May back to the ape kingdom, like that's asking for trouble. So still, we're hundreds of years into the future from where we were in war, right? But there's still this antagonism between humans and apes because humans are not where they would later become in the Charlton Heston movie. They're not um, they're not completely dumb. You know, the simian virus hasn't completely wiped them out. So there's still some humans as a resistance, basically trying to regain their place in society. And an interesting question at the end of the movie, basically, they fight off Proximus, and Noah starts clucking like a bird, and all the birds surround him, and he becomes the master of the birds, and all the birds attack Proximus, and that's how he defeats him, even though he was severely overpowered. Anyway, um, towards the end, like there's a shaky alliance between Noah and this girl, May, because it's like what she wants is things to go back to the way they were before Caesar's time. What she wants is the apes to remain silent. What she wants is the apes to remain complicit. What she wants is the apes to be subject to all kinds of scientific experiments like Kobo was. You know what I mean? And and see, and Noah's generation is just like they're not on. Noah's generation is not on no hateful shit. Like Noah's generation is for working with the human beings, trying to, you have yours, we have ours. You know what I mean? They don't know how much the human beings have. That's later revealed when May goes back, and there's like underground um, layer of like technological shit, like real technological shit that the apes have. I mean, the humans rather have that the apes don't possess. You know what I'm saying? So if they really wanted to if they really wanted to wipe out the apes, like they could, you know what I'm saying? They really could if they so desired. They wanted, they could, because literally she has a gun and she shoots an ape. Apes don't possess firearms. Apes don't know how to use firearms. She has a gun. So at the level they're at right now, she can still, her and the human society can still dominate ape society. You know what I mean? They don't have the power, they're out of power, but they still have the technological know-how. And they don't have the numbers because the simian flu completely wiped them out. A lot of their population is dumb, but they have the weaponry. You know what I mean? They can't go hand to hand. A human being can't go hand to hand with an ape, obviously. Not even in real life. But they have the technological know-how. And at the end, they in California, because remember, this all took place in California, in San Francisco, in the Redwood Forest. This is the mecca of of ape world. You know what I mean? Uh, Planet of the Apes, the original, makes it out like New York is, because what does Charleston Heston see when he's strolling on the beach? He sees a Statue of Liberty. You know what I mean? But I think that was more symbolic of how the United States was throwing away civil liberties at the time in the name of freedom in the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? But the new one is set in California. That's basically the capital that Caesar established for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So they get a contact from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I mean, there's other humans living in other parts of the country and possibly the world. So it's like it's just like Terminator Salvation, where John Connor is building this resistance, and it's like an underground bunker. They had wars with apes before in other previous movies, and they lost. So that theirs is an underground movement. Theirs is an underground resistance, just like in Rogue One, right? The resistance was underground. You know what I mean? A lot of technological darkness that you used in lived in universe, that sort of thing. So, but the apes have no idea. The apes don't know. So this opens up possibilities for a sequel. Disney wants to do a trilogy of these particular ape films, and I'm all for it, man, because the story here is how does the ape society advance to the level that the ape society was at when Taylor landed in the Planet of the Apes. Charleston Heston's character Taylor landed in the Planet of the Apes in 1968. What level of society were they at? They were really advanced, you know. Uh, Zara and Cornelius, they were scientists. You know what I mean? They were studying genetics. They were studying biology. They were studying zoology, and they consider humans to be animals. You know what I mean? So the roles have been completely reversed. Now they're not at that level, right? They're still at the like semi-primitive level. They're still riding around in horses. Even their armor is very primitive. So that's what I think. I mean, they can fill it in however they want to fill it in, guys. But I think that's the story I want to see. How the universe advances and how humans the because that's always been the thing that's intrigued me about Planet of the Apes. Even the bad Planet of the Apes movie, um, uh, the reboot by Tim Burton, was like the idea that here they were in this battle, and the Pericles, uh, basically the ape in the astronaut suit, descends upon them, and they're seeing a version of themselves of how they once were if evolution had gone the other way. You know, if humans had devolved and apes had evolved. You know what I mean? That's always been the crust of the idea that intrigued me when it came to Planet of the Apes. I loved I loved the original. I felt the arguments. I saw Planet of the Apes. I saw the 2001 version of Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg before I saw Planet of the Apes 1968. So the arguments that were presented in the 1968 version about the role of religion and the role of society and the role of science and the role of ethics and how religious institutions keep history hidden for their own purposes, like Dr. Zayas in the movie, that didn't hit me because you don't really see that uh, in in the 2001 version. Only thing you see is a military general that is greedy for his own greed, and he's genocidal. He wants to wipe humans off. He feels that human beings are a dredge on society, so he wants to theist. He wants to wipe them completely off society, and then they have they have political discussions within that movie too about the role of humans in society, but not necessarily. There's no talk of them trying to hide humans' origins or trying to hide where humans come from. The Charleston Heston ape do, uh, does in 2001 version talk about human beings, and they touch on this too in this one. Human beings' capability, duplicity capability, like you can't really trust them. You know what I mean? Because as soon as you give human beings a certain level of power, the human beings will turn on you. You know what I mean? Whereas the apes, there's this idea among the apes that they have a certain level of camaraderie with one another, something that human civilization did never have. You know what I'm saying? Human civilization had the Ten Commandments and stuff, but that applied to certain tribes. And for the longest, it wasn't like that with apes until this movie, until tribalism with amongst the apes becomes a thing. You know what I mean? Tribalism and racism, to a sense, racism amongst apes becomes a thing. You know what I mean? Charleston Heston in this 1968 version, he alludes to it because he says, I don't think every ape is created equal among every other ape. You know what I mean? Because the gorillas and the orangutans and the monkeys, but the gorillas and the orangutans and the chimpanzees, they all have different roles in society. And the way for human beings, if they were to do like a Planet of the Man version where the humans re-rebel and the humans who are now dumbed down re-rebel and they destroy the apes, the way for them to infiltrate ape society would be to exploit these differences. But towards the end, the thing that Noah says in this conversation with May is like, well, what do you want us to do? What you want us to go back to being silent? You want us to go back to into our holes and to be docile and to take abuse. What alternative do we have? You want your land back that you so-called built. You spent billions of years building this civilization. But what about us? We spent hundreds of years building it. Our blood is on this. Our sacrifices are on this. And as she's saying this, she has a gun in back of her, and she was going to shoot Noah. But she sees that Noah has a valid point. And I've often tried to look for historical parallels. Obviously, the most obvious historical parallel given of the first movie, given that it took place in 1968, a time when we were, because of the Vietnam War and because of racism, we were questioning our society's mores and our society's beliefs. We were always doing so. You know what I mean? Like you could point to Galileo, and you could point to Copernicus, and you could point to Socrates, even in a pre-Christian context, when it comes to that. We were always kind of doing that. But in 1968, because of the Chicago riots, the Democratic National Convention, because of the riots after the death of Martin Luther King Jr., it kind of reaches apex. And no other genre of literature, no other genre of entertainment, even movies, which are just literature put to picture, address the the dangers of certain political ideas and certain political themes than science fiction. You know what I mean? We talk about it a lot with Star Wars because that's the science fiction franchise that we mostly focus on this channel, but it's true about Planet of the Apes as well, probably even more so. So we could see the allegories going on in Planet of the Apes in the 60s, right? And we could see the allegories about and the messaging about, you know, protecting our planet, preserving our species, things of that nature. You know what I mean? So, uh, but in this one, and then in the other ones, I saw like parallels of the Haitian Revolution when Caesar rose up. Of course, of the biblical Israelites, I saw parallels. The fact that he's named Caesar, the Roman Civil War, a lot of parallels there. Um, uh, and with the second one, I saw a lot of parallels between indigenous people and European settlers, where as indigenous people were trying to just eke out some of their existence, European settlers were so concerned with technology as the humans were in Dawn that they were willing to trample over um, indigenous lands. You know what I mean? So, and then in uh, in war, the third one, I saw a lot of parallels with Nazi concentration camps because there's one scene where Woody Harrelson's army has Caesar and a bunch of apes locked into like a concentration camp type setting. So I saw like Auschwitz and shit like that. With this one, I saw a lot of parallels between not European settler communities and indigenous people, but with like Israel and the Palestinians, which is very topical because you could look at the apes as Israel. You know what I mean? The apes for centuries were maligned. The apes for centuries were put upon. The apes for centuries were marginalized. And then they finally got some kind of power. They finally got some kind of civilization, and they're building it up, and they're building it up slowly. And there's a lot of corruption in their society, as it would be in any incipient society, any new society. But the Palestinians are looking at it like, yo, this is the shit we built. You know what I mean? This is our shit. You know what I mean? Like, look, the technology has our name on it. It was built by our capabilities, and we want it back. But the Israelis are like, well, what do you expect us to do? You expect us to remain silent? You expect us to crawl back in our holes and be docile and killed in the ghettos and the streets of Europe? You know what I mean? Or you could look at it as an allegory for Black Lives Matter and here in the United States, where white people here in the United States are looking at it like, you know, this is our shit, our shit. We built this shit. They're like the humans. We built this shit. This is our shit. This bears our heritage and everything. And African Americans who have been politically robust for the last 50, 60 years and made a lot of political gains, so political and social gains, if not economic gains on top of that, are saying, nah, you're not gonna take this from us. We built this shit. You know what I mean? Like we built this city. You know what I mean? Like this is ours now. And if you want to take it, you gotta pry it from our cold dead hands. We were marginalized. We were beat up. We were oppressed. We were enslaved. And now we have the gun. We have the capability now. What are you gonna do about it? So I feel like Noah gives voice to the younger people of the marginalized group to say, no, we're not going to take this shit lying down. We're going to take the bull by the horns and we're going to do something about it. Whereas the older group, they're like, they're on some passive shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, some humans are good, some ain't, you know, let them be. But if you let them be at our expense, you know what I mean? So the racial and ethnic allegories have always caught me when it comes to the Planet of the Apes franchise from the first one until this one. So with this one, I give a 4 out of 5 stars. I recommend this film. Like I said, I'm looking forward to so many others. I thought Disney would disappoint me because, I mean, look what they did to Star Wars. They interject a lot of social justice themes into Star Wars, but there's so many social justice themes within, especially when it comes to racism, which is a topic that social justice warriors love to talk about anyway, and social inequality that's baked into Planet of the Apes, so they can't mess that up. What I'm saying? Like that's not really baked into Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like Ewoks and Wookiees and stuff, they get along. I mean, there is some kind of Wookiee oppression, word of the ish, in presented in Solo, but that was never in the whole subplot of the droids and droid liberation, representing female liberation within Solo. A lot of people picked up on that and they didn't like that with L3. You know what I mean? But that was never the arc of Star Wars. The arc of Star Wars was interpersonal relationship, family dramas, family beefs, intergalactic politics as it comes to greed and corruption. Things like that were never evident in Planet of the Apes. They're two different franchises. They're both sci-fi franchises, both taking place in otherworldly settings, but they're different. They're very different franchises. So I recommend this. 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, a beautifully well shot movie. This has no Andy Serkis. Uh, Owen Tegan does the motion capture for this movie, and he does a pretty good job. Nobody's better than Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is the man, but he had to pass the baton on to somebody because the character of Caesar is no more. So, anyway, love you guys. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next videos coming out. Peace.